how to find out how much money you'll make from a buy-to-let deal. In today's episode of In Property Investing with Abby, we're going to look at numbers, how we work out the numbers of buying a property and what the property is going to make us, because that's the most important thing. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and we're going to get cracking. So I have a property that I have seen for sale and I've printed out the Rightmove details, which we'll show you. And I'm just going to work out the figures and show you how I very simply work out, is it worth viewing or is it isn't, or if it isn't worth viewing. Because what I hate is, I'm a mum of two, I'm very busy working, I can't waste my time viewing properties that don't make financial sense. So I do this calculation first and then it tells me whether I should view or not. So the purchase price for this property, they've got it on for $57,500. Now, I've already rang the agents and I've had a little chat and they're happy to go down to $55,000 for me. So if you haven't already, have a look at the last episode that I did on how to ring agents and how to negotiate with them. But agents will tell you, and they'll be quite honest if they think that, you know, you can offer lower and you'll get it lower. So we're actually going to get this for $55,000 purchase price. Now the next thing you need to work out is the market value. It's okay to look at the purchase price, but you need to know what the end value is going to be once you've bought it and spent money on refurbing it. So on this street, a few have sold in the last 12 months for over 70,000, and the last one that sold actually sold for 82,000. So I am going to put my market value at 75,000. So 75,000. So we've got purchase price, market value. Now the rent on this property, and again, all I've done is I've looked on Rightmove and Zoopla and I've looked for what is renting around the area. What is the average rent? Now the average rent for this property is $475. So we've got three important pieces of information: purchase price, market value, and what it'll rent at. So that's quite important information that we need. Now the next thing we need to work out is what will the mortgage be if we buy it? So on a 75% loan to value mortgage, how much will that be? So all I'm going to say is, and I'm going to work this out, if we buy it for $55,000, what would a mortgage be? So if I work out 75% of 55,000, I've got 41,250, so just in where lenders will lend you, because lenders typically won't lend you under 40 grand. So my mortgage is going to be 41,250, which means the deposit that I need to actually purchase it is, and I'll do it right so I get it right on my calculator, is 13,750, and that's on a 75% loan to value mortgage. Now once I've got that information, I need to work out my tax and legals. So thinking about, I'll just put a line there. So how much cash do I need in? Well, I need my deposit, tax and legals. Now we work this out at 4% of the purchase price. So we're working it out 4% of 55,000. So all I'm going to do is 55,000 times by 0.04 equals 2,200. 2,200. Now that can be, because that's your stamp duty and that's your solicitor's fees. It varies across the country where you are, depending on purchase price, but we've found using 4% is a rough idea. Now, once you've been and viewed the property and you come back, you would work out actuals. You would get an actual solicitor's quote for the works and you would go on. I use the BBC stamp duty calculator, go on there and pull off what the stamp duty is going to be. So once we have that in place, we want to look at the renovation. Now, this property isn't in the best condition. I think looking at it, I might have to do some work in the kitchen, in the living room, and a bit of tidying in the garden. It's not a full refurb, but it's going to need some bits and pieces doing to it. So I'm going to probably say, about 5 grand I'm going to spend on it. So my renovation's 5,000. And then what I'm going to do is total them up so I know total cash needed. So the total is 20,950 that I'm going to need to buy it and refurb it and get it into livable standard, ready for rental. Now, the next important piece of information that I need is I want to work out my monthly expenses. How much is it going to cost me to run this property? So the first thing I need to work out, assuming I've put my mortgage on it, what my mortgage payments are. Now, we always seem to typically work out a 3% interest-only mortgage. You can pay interest and repayment, pay capital off, but for this in my property journey, I'm interested more in the cash flow because I want cash flow because I want to buy more. I'm a big believer that house prices always go up and always have been, even with market crashes and corrections, house prices still go up. So I'm not that concerned with paying my mortgages off yet. So all I do is I've got the mortgage left, which is 41,250 times by 0.03, which is your 3% mortgage, divide by 12, says I'm going to be paying £103 a month, 103. Now, the other thing I need to work out is 10% of my rent goes to management. Again, those of you that know me always say, I don't want to work in my business. I don't want to be a letting agent with my properties. I want to work on my business. So I'm a massive believer in outsourcing to a letting agents. And for 10%, the other thing about outsourcing to a letting agent is they're responsible for looking after the safety of your property, for making sure gas certs are done. So I like the fact that I'm not 100% responsible for the whole safety of that property, that it's them as well. I feel more ring-fenced with it. So 10% management, and it's 10% management of the rent. So £47.50 will be the management. And then I need 10% for voids and maintenance, because like it or not, I will have voids and maintenance to do. So 10% of that is again £47.50. And then so each month, total rough cost to run this property, and I'll just work that out. It gives me £198 to run the property. So that's my monthly expenses. I then want to work out my cash flow. So I've put money into buying this property. What am I actually making? So I'll work out my cash, which is my rent minus my total expenses. Gives me 277. So I'm going to make 277 a month. So annually, all I'm going to do is times it by 12 for 12 months. So I do 277 times up by 12, gives me 3,324. So £3,324 annual profit. Now what I want to do, because I need to say whether this is a good property purchase or not, what I need to do is work out how hard that money is working. So what I'm going to do is the ROI calculation. So ROI, and this is usually income divided by costs times by 100. So my income is my 3,324. My costs is my 20,950 times by 100. Tells me this is a 15.8% deal. So it's all right, but I can do better for my money than 15.8%. I want that 25% or 30%. So 15.8% isn't that exciting. But there's another way to analyse this deal and look at it. What if I bought it fully with cash and I did the mortgage on the value instead? So I bought it with cash, I did the refurb, and then I put a mortgage on it at a later date. If I could have it valued at 75,000, I can pull out more money, and I might not have to leave my full 20,950 in it. So how we work that out is we do 75% loan to value mortgage. I'm doing 75% because they're the average of buy-to-let lenders. You can get 80%, but it depends on your experience and your circumstances. So 75% loan to value is average. So if we put a 75% loan to value mortgage on this, what can we pull out? So 75,000 times 0.75 is 56,250. 56,250. That's the mortgage you'd have out. Now that slightly changes your mortgage payments. So let's just work out the mortgage payments, then we can work out the ROI. So my mortgage payments would be, so 56,250. Again, 3% interest only. 3 divided by 12 equals 140. So instead of paying 100 and fee, I'm now paying 140. So instead of that being 277, I've got my 140 plus 47, 50 plus 47, 50 gives me 235. And then if I times that by 12, that then gives me 2820. So my cash has slightly gone down with me putting the mortgage on it. And my cash has gone down by £504 a year. So not too bad, but let's have a look at the ROI with these new figures. So what we have to do is work out how much again is in. So I've pulled out 56,250. The only things I need to take into account are what I bought it for. So I bought it for 55,000 cash. I spent, there's no deposit, so we need to ignore that. I spent 2,200 on tax and legals and 5,000 renovation fee. So 55,000 plus 2200 equals plus 5,000 equals 62,200. Now if I minus my 56,250 that I've got out, so minus 56,250 that'll be back in my bank, that means I'm only leaving 5,950 in the deal. So if I do the same ROI calculations, my income, which is 2820, divide by 5,950 times by 100, gives me 47% ROI. That's a very, very good ROI. That would mean I'm interested to buy this property. Now, there's a few things we can do. I can get this so I'm not leaving any money in the deal if I reduce the cost of me buying it, or if I reduce the cost of me buying it, or if I reduce the refurb, which I don't think you can. So if I reduce the cost of buying it, I'm gonna get this to zero, which is a great deal. Then the ROI becomes infinite. Now, there's a few things you need to know, because property investing, it's fabulous, it's exciting, but sometimes it's challenging. Recently, I've had a down valuation on one of the properties that I bought like this. So imagine, instead of getting 75,000, the valuer saying, yeah, you can have, it's worth 75,000. My valuer valued it 10 grand less. So he said, nope, it's only worth 65,000. So you can imagine the knock-on effect, which means I have less money, which means I leave more money in the deal, which means my ROI is less. So what I would say to you, if you're thinking about doing this, get some help. Make sure you know your numbers and make sure you're confident of your end value. And we can't be confident of end values. We're not always sure what valuers do. So make sure if the worst case comes to fruition and the valuer down values it by like horrible, like 10, 15 grand, make sure you can still afford to keep the house and it'll still profit for you. As long as you've done them, you're safe and secure. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I really hope as well that by next episode I can do numbers in my head, because I'd really like to do that and look really smart with people just doing numbers in their head and writing it on the board, but that's not me. I always use a calculator. And even using a calculator, I sometimes get it wrong. So if you've got any comments or likes, please comment below, like this video, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time.